Namaste to everybody. First of all, on behalf of Global Hindu Heritage Foundation and SaveTemples, wishing everybody a happy Independence Day. So today is August 15th. So we are very fortunate that we have Mary Suresh Iyer. So that means she is symbolizing the independence of Hindus from the rest of the other religions. We are very fortunate to welcome Suresh Iyer. We have been listening to her for almost 3-4 years. And I also want to acknowledge Esther Dhanraj. And so we will see her again, I think, in the next month. But when it comes to Suresh Iyer, she grew up as a Christian. She practiced Christianity for more than 4 decades. So in between, she got married. Then it started unraveling so many things in her life. So instead of me telling, I'm sure she is going to narrate that journey that she took and the nature of Christianity, its exclusivity, it's we and they concept they have, and the missionary deceptive practices, whatever she feels that we need to share, which made her actually come out of the Christian hold and then embrace Sanatana Dharma. So Global Hindu Heritage Foundation is very happy to welcome and invite her. And then the floor is yours, Mary Suresh Iyer. I am very, very thankful that you joined and you agreed to at least educate all of us as to what we should know and how we should actually protect ourselves from what is happening all around in India. Namaste. So the floor is yours.
Namaskaram. Thank you so much for having me. And it is a pleasure. And I join Prakash Rao Garu in wishing you all a very, very happy Independence Day. And I don't have all good news. The good news is that I'm on your side now. Let me start off with that. But I will also give you what it means, what it meant for me, or what was my journey like for you to be on this side. It was not an easy journey, but I will talk about it in more detail. But before I do that, I'll give you a little bit of what is all this Christian mission means, like what are they getting at? And I'll share a few slides. This is from a suburban church in Houston. This is the church building. And as you exit the parking lot, okay, you see you're now entering your mission field. This suburban church in Houston has a budget of $21 million annually, okay? And somebody who's leaving the church, what did they hear before they left the church premises? This is what I heard for years and years and years. But in any case, I want to tell you what they hear. Before the church service is over, and just in case you're thinking that such a palatial church is just in a country like US, I'll give you a few more pictures. Here we go. These churches are not in Houston. They're back home. To be precise, they're in Hyderabad. This happens to be Calvary Temple. This happens to be the New Assemblies of God Church. This happens to be my home church. My ex-home church, let me call that. This is the church that I grew up in. I was part of when I was growing up. And all of them, this church here in Houston has put this thing saying that you're entering the mission field now. But these may not have these things written, but they all do the same thing. Now, like I said, before you leave the church premises, what are they telling us? What is it that the people inside are listening? This would be what they're asked to do. They have what is called as the Great Commission. To a Christian, what is a Great Commission? A Great Commission is the mandate given by their very God, Jesus. And what is he saying? All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I, as in Jesus, will always be with you to the very end of the age. This is the Great Commission that every Christian or anybody who acknowledges himself as a Christian is bound by. Now, in order to accomplish this Great Commission, they are told that they are soldiers. And if you're thinking this is just a phrase, no, this is part of a song, Onward Christian Soldiers. So when they are doing that inside the church premises, they are encouraged to be soldiers. They're encouraged to be warriors. They're encouraged to take the fight head on. But when they come out, they're telling you they love you. We'll talk about that later, but what is happening inside the church is what I'm trying to present here. And this song tells them, onward Christian soldiers, as you would do this mission like you're waging a war. And who is leading this war? It is Christ, the very Jesus, leading this war. Against whom? Against the foe. Who is that foe? That foe is you. That foe is me. That foe is anybody who doesn't identify himself as a Christian. And he has to identify, that fight is against sin and Satan. What is the sin that tops the list of all the sins? That sin is not accepting Jesus as the one true God. That means if your God is Hanuman, if your God is Krishna, your God is Rama, that is the biggest sin that any human being can do. So whenever Jesus, the royal master, is commissioning these people to wage a war, it is against that sin that we consider as worship to our God. Let's move on. And then this is another song, stand up for Jesus. And when you stand up, what do? You put on the gospel armor. Those little tracts that they give you from the bag, somebody is like, it looks like a non-assuming poor pastor just pulling something out of his bag and giving to you. That is a weapon that he is giving you. And that's what that says, putting on the gospel armor. And they're told, if the duty calls you, you should be ready to take the danger. That means what? In the line of duty, they are told that even their life should not matter. They should be ready to lay down their life in the process of fulfilling this Great Commission. And here is another one, okay? This is the song. These are all parts of the songs, by the way. This song is, as they're leaving the church, this song was written by somebody, probably an American missionary, but it says, far, far away in heathen darkness dwelling, millions of souls forever may be lost. Who will go salvation story telling, looking to Jesus, minding not the cost. So in that palatial church here in Houston, and in that crowded church, like a Calvary temple, before they are let out to the mission field, this is what they're told. And far, far away would have been many years ago, but now it's not far away. It's near, next door. When they come out, their mission field is next door to them. And they are encouraged to go ahead and do what they're supposed to do, because they are trying to, in their mind, you and I are dwelling in darkness, and they're asked to take the salvation story to us. I'll come back to what this salvation story means, but let me just continue to go on to what is it that they are trained to do. And here is what they're saying: see over the world, wide open doors inviting. So that means what? When you get out of the church building, what you see is wide open doors. And as soldiers, Christians are asked to arise and enter this war field to win us all for Christ. And they're waiting for God to speed the day when those of every nation will triumphantly sing that there is only one God, and that one God is Jesus. And in order for them to do that, the very God says, all power is given to you. And all you have to do is go into the world and preach the gospel. And they do that because their God is with them on this great mission. And today happens to be an Independence Day. And I thought I'll share a little song that I learned as a child. If this is the soldiers that are leaving the mission field, then what is it that they are not? Here they say, I may never march in the infantry, ride in the cavalry, shoot the artillery. I may never fly over the enemy, but I am in the Lord's army. So what does this really mean? If you are part of a country, if you belong to a country like India, where your identity, your collective identity is not Christianity, then you're told not to join the army. You're not going to be part of the military. In honor of all the soldiers that laid down their life for India, this is a slap on their face, because while on one side of the bargain, we are encouraging our people to join the army, serve the nation. We were told, we sang songs as children that I don't want anything to do with this army of India. I don't want anything to do with this fight for the nation. Because of what? Because I am in the Lord's army. And who is that Lord again? It is Jesus. Oh, what if you don't have the courage to be a soldier? You can try your hand at fishing, because Jesus also said, I will make you fishers of men. Who is that fish? That fish is you and me, to be caught in the net of Christianity. And in order for you to accomplish this great commission, obviously you need great deception. And what is that great deception? In order for them to convert you, they become all things to all people, so that by all possible means, I might save some. This is what the first missionary, the person who started the first missionary endeavors of Christianity, St. Paul, has said. To the Jews, I became like a Jew to win the Jews. To Gujarati, I'll rephrase it. I became like a Gujarati to win the Gujaratis. To those under the law, I became like one under the law, so as to win those under the law. To Telugus, I became a Telugu. To those not having the law, to the so-called outcasts, Dalits, or whatever you want to call them, I became a Dalit so that I can win them for the Lord. To the weak, I became the weak so that I can win them for Christ. And why am I doing all these things? I have become all things to all people so that by all means I might save some. And I do this for the sake of the gospel. This is what St. Paul has said. And there is more written in the Bible that about Saint Paul's work than Jesus's work. If you look at New Testament is about Jesus and Christianity. Only 5 books are about Jesus and his work. The rest of the books, about 20 plus, are about what Saint Paul did to establish Christianity. Now, somebody who's converted like this, by saying that I am one of you, okay? Now, the deception is only to get you into the doors of Christianity. But once you get into the doors of Christianity, are they still saying that I am one of you, or we are all together in this? You're a Hindu, but you now got converted to Christianity, but you can still go ahead and keep the ways of Hindu? No. Once you're locked into Christianity, this is what you learn. So once you're locked into Christianity, they create, number one, a false sense of pride and superiority. They tell you that you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation. What this actually means is they start sowing the seeds of separatism. That's when they slowly tell you, you are separate, you are chosen, you are not part of this nation, you are on a different mission. And this is where the separatist movement of Christianity starts. It all starts with a sense of false pride and superiority. Nobody tells them that, come on now, go ahead and wage a war. No. They're telling you that you are chosen, you are blessed, and you have to keep up this identity of being a blessed person. In order to keep that identity, what should you do? How do you keep your identity, the identity of being a chosen person, a royal priesthood? You do that by making converts hate their own loved ones. So if you want to be this chosen nation, a royal priesthood, then you cannot love your mother or father more than you love Jesus. You cannot love your son or daughter more than you love Jesus. And if you refuse to do this, you're not worthy of the great commission that you are called to take on. So here, this is where the families break. This is where Christianity is dividing one person in the family, in one unit called family, into several fragments. And there is another way they do that. Here, if it is not family, how does the Christians relate to larger society? Do not be bound together with unbelievers. So this is another way. You are isolated from family because you cannot love your parents, children, brother, sister more than you love Jesus. At the same time, you cannot be part of the mainstream society because there is another mandate. Do not be bound together with unbelievers. That means what? At no point in their journey after they become Christians, they should not have anything to do with any kind of partnership with whom they call as unbelievers. Who are unbelievers? Unbelievers are those who are not accepting Jesus as their savior. Those are the unbelievers. And you're asked, like, after seeing all these things, you're asking, what is their end goal? What are they trying to accomplish? Their end goal is that they want every knee should bow before Jesus, and every tongue shall confess that Jesus is the only true God. That is their end goal. And many of you I don't know how many of you have ever been to a church or grew up in a studying in a convent. This is called a Lord's Prayer. Okay, the prayer goes like this. Is the beginning of the prayer. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So now look, after hearing what all I have said, does it really look like a spiritual calling? Doesn't it sound like a call for political dominion? It is for you all to think about this. But I thought I'll kind of give you an idea about what this gist of this entire Christianity means. Now that I have kind of given you the philosophical side of Christianity, and I've given you what is going on inside the four walls of Christianity or the churches, let me go and talk about my own journey. How did I end up inside the church, and what did it take for me to come out of that church, and what did I see personally of all these things that I talked about in order for a person to become part of this group? What is it that they put in practice is what I want to talk about. It was not my choice to convert to Christianity. It was never by my own choice. The reason I became a Christian, or I was raised a Christian, is because my own father took to Christianity from I can't say that they were very orthodox Hindus, but they were somewhat of Hindus, like most people in normal Hindu families are. And he got converted when he was, I think, probably in his early 20s, when he was when he was studying his engineering in Hyderabad. And there are several reasons he gives as to why he got converted. But one of the main reasons, he said that he was looking for the truth. He was disturbed in his life, and he had some trouble in his personal life because he just had a friend who committed suicide in the same room that he was living. But in any case, it's one of those turmoil times where he had some kind of turmoil in his personal friend. But he got converted to Christianity, and then but he still got married according to my grandparents' wish. And he kind of kept it low-key Christianity. My mother just walked into this marriage without knowing much about his Christian association. And even if the family knew that my father has taken to Christianity and the son-in-law was a Christian, I don't think my mother's parents would have had great objection to it, because it's like anybody else, right? So what if he's having Jesus as his God? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. So my mother walked into this, and then once they moved to Hyderabad after I was born, I mean, my mother did not have any other social group except the group that my father was part of, which is very much the church. So I grew up in this the Christian fold from the time I was born. And when I was younger, we had a house full of relatives, my cousins, my uncles, my aunts, and things like that. So it really didn't look like I had a lot of Christian influence. Like it was once a week thing. Sunday morning we go and then we come back. But once the age started growing, when I started growing, that's when I saw, like when I was 7 or 8 years old, is when I saw things changing in our house a little bit, because we were not regular church goers anymore. But my father got into Christianity so much that he, from just being a regular Christian, he also wanted to be what was called as an evangelist. Evangelist is somebody who is now actually actively recruiting others to Christianity, let's put it that way. So he became God's servant in some sense. Apparently he got some God's call to do it, and that's how he became. So that changed a lot of things for us, because now it is not just acting like a Christian, but we were also put on a mission to recruit more people for Christianity. What does that mean to us? Like, as a family, what did it mean to me? My father is the first generation engineer, or in fact, he's a first generation graduate from his village. And he's known to be a very generous man. And he's very helpful. And same was with the case of my mother. I mean, on a typical day in my house, we would have at least 20 to 30 people eating lunch, breakfast, dinner. This was in Hyderabad in the mid 70s. That is because he believed, my father had this idea that, or he felt like he's been fortunate to get this job in Hyderabad and he needs to help as many people as he wanted. This was what he did always. That was something that was in his personality always. Except that once he was commissioned by this great mission, everything that he's now doing has an agenda. If he's helping somebody, it is driven by, so far there was no agenda. It was just helping people for the sake of helping people. But once he became part of this missionary group, it was agenda driven. Whether he himself has the agenda or not, I don't know. But this agenda was something that the church had in every action my father was asked to do. Okay. And that agenda was my father, every time he helped people, he told them, like, people would say, I mean, like, can I give you this? Can I give you that? No, my father said, all you have to do is, because of the love of Jesus in my heart, I did this help, and this help. If you find that same Jesus in your heart, that is the biggest return gift that you can give me. So in return for his help, he has obliged that person to come to church, listen to the word of God, and then give his heart to Jesus. Okay, that's all he asked. And what did that mean to the person who got his help? It was almost a silent message. That means somebody is going to check on you to see if you're going to come to church every Sunday or not. Okay. And if you're not, there is a possibility that that help will be withdrawn. Okay. And the help that he did was not one-time help. For instance, he would get a bunch of 10th class pass students and put them all in what used to be called as ITI. Like, I don't know if they still have it in India these days, but it is a 2-year course where you're trained on a technical, some kind of a trade thing. And then after you finish, back in the days, you could get good jobs in public sectors like PSUs and things like that. So the moment they come in, he puts them in these colleges, but then he also attaches them to the church. Okay, so it is a very it doesn't look like, at the face of it doesn't look like anything big. Like, what is wrong in coming to a church? What are they trying to teach you? In the church, they teach you not to steal, not to smoke, not to drink, not to womanize. What is wrong about that? Right? So if you're not coming to the church, that means you have love for all these things. And that is the reason you're resisting coming to the church, because if you come to church, they'll ask you to live a holy life. And you don't want to live a holy life, and that's why you don't want to come to the church. So what does it do to the person who has, like, but when you come to the church, then they're telling you that you need to throw your idols out, you need to, your gods are demons, your gods are Satans. Yes, they're telling you to live a holy life, not to steal, not to do all this. But in addition to that, they're also telling you this. The reason you are living, the reason you are having this unholy life is because you've been worshiping idols so far. Okay. And that is the message that they hear. They tell you not to live they tell you to live a holy life, but they also tell you the reason why so far you did not live a holy life. The reason you so far did not live a holy life is because you were worshiping an idol, you're worshiping a stone, and your conscience was dead. The one who worships stones, their conscience will also be dead like that of a stone. That's what they told us. So here, when coming to the church was to have a moralistic living that was not possible so far outside the church, because you were a Hindu, and in Hinduism, you were not taught any morals. That's what they said. So this is the kind of household I grew up in. And I used to question a few things, because it is not so much of uh, what my father taught to us, but it was so much of what was practiced. It's not like my father sat down all of us and say you should hate your friends, you should hate your relatives and all those things. It is never given in words, but their actions did that. So, and we never had a chance to interact with Hindus at face value, because even before we started interacting or having any kind of relationship outside the church or outside the Christian communities, our hearts were filled with suspicion against them. So, what I mean by this is, you're sending these messages, I'm listening to these messages over and over again, that the reason you have this unholy life is because you were not worshiping the true God. You were worshiping stones, you were worshiping idols. And now I'm looking at somebody outside and I have already made up in my mind that this person is evil. They have nothing good about their lives. So for a Christian, there is an inherent suspicion in his heart, or an inherent fear in his heart, that somebody who is not a Christian cannot live a morally upright life. So if it's always I'm operating from a place of suspicion every time I see. So that means if some Hindu is coming to me to genuinely become a friend, I'm saying, oh my God, they're going to take me into their fold, and these are not good people. These are cheats. These are people that have no value system. Okay, so this is the kind of it is an internal turmoil, because I'm looking at the people, they were good people. My friends, my neighbors, they were good people. But then I was trained to look at them with an eye of suspicion. Not only that, I was also told that it is my job to make sure that they don't live this morally low life. It is my job to recruit them to Christianity so that they can also become righteous or upright like we are. And I was also told that she can be your closest friend, but she's going to go to hell. And if somehow God made you her friend, the only reason God allowed her to become your friend is because he gave you the duty to save her or save him. Okay. So in my mind, I'm always driven by this one agenda. Any interaction that I have with anybody other than a Christian is for me to eventually win them over to Christ. Okay, so that is the only reason I should be interacting with them, no other reason. So this is the kind of household I grew up in. I had a lot of questions because I mean, it didn't sit well with me once I reached a certain age. But can you even voice these questions? Because I knew that I saw people inside the church that were way more wicked than people outside. But I could never ask some questions, because if somebody inside the church is behaving differently or they are not living up to their standards, it is because Satan is tempting them. And it is a spiritual warfare for them. And it is not anymore the moral failings of Christ as God, but it is because this particular person is having some kind of his own internal struggle. So you don't blame your God. If a Hindu has done a mistake, it is all because he's a Hindu and his gods are devils. But if Christian is living a not so stellar life, it is because he has a problem living a holy life, because it is all his, because his forefathers' sins came and fell on him. Okay, and the sins of these forefathers, which is idolatry, is still haunting him. So you had all kinds of justifications for that. So I can't even ask questions. So if you're already told, if you're having any doubts about Christian faith, Christian thought, it is because devil is in your heart. So I mean, at every point, your questioning is snubbed and you're not able to ask questions. If you ask questions, the very reason you are having this doubt is because somewhere in your heart you've given place to devil. You could have given place to this devil because when you're walking from school yesterday, on your way you passed a temple. Okay, and because you passed the temple, that evil spirit from the temple must have possessed you. I'm not kidding you all, guys. These are the kinds of things we were taught. And it's not that none of this is what I'm making up. And it is possible that on yesterday, when my friend shared her some sweet, it was actually offered to the devil, and she gave it to you without telling you that, and you ate it. Because you ate that, the devil has possessed you. And because the devil has possessed you, you're having all these questions about Christianity and about Jesus. So your questioning is also kind of snubbed. Not because I was afraid to ask questions, because the moment I ask questions, then, oh, you've given place to devil in your heart. So what sin have you committed? Now I have to sit in front of the Sunday school teacher and think about all the sins I have done. Instead of answering the questions that I have, now they're asking me, oh, your questioning is because there is devil in your heart. So now tell me what sin you have done. So who wants to deal with all these things? As a teenager, you don't want to deal with all these things. You're like, whatever, you shut yourself and you just move on. But I kept at it. Unlike most people, I kept at it. I kept questioning within my own heart. And then at some point, I said, I had the opportunity to interact with somebody who is a little bit well-versed about Christianity, because about Hinduism. Remember, we were not, in this particular church that my father was part of, it is not just that going to church and coming back. We were also told to live in a particular community. Okay, this particular community is physically isolated from the mainstream Hindu community. So your neighbors are all Christians, your friends are all Christians, and your school is a Christian school. So they ensure that you never come in contact with a regular Hindu society. Okay, you never know what is happening in their societies at all. The only thing that I came across as a Hindu was the only Hindu things that I have seen were on a Sunday morning when we're going to church. I can never forget that. They used to, in Hyderabad, especially even to this day, they have this Bonalu festival, right? And people are having this huge procession. They're all, already you have so much fear that they're all devils, right? But then they look at all these things, and the church pastor would make it a point. On your way to church, did you see how the demon-possessed people were running around on the streets? So they also ensure to tell us that the imagery that was kind of not, which was on the more, I don't even want to use the word rough side, but more organic side, that is all Hinduism is about violent people, loud noises, people leaving their hair open and jumping on the streets. That is all Hinduism about. Because they told us that, they made sure to tell us that this is what all about it. Then what about all these other festivals, right? Because Bonalu is not the only festival. There was a festival like Deepavali, which was colorful, which was nice, which was beautiful. How did they not allow us to see that? They told us that people whose hearts are filled with darkness are trying to light lamps in front of their houses. And we should pray that their hearts are lightened up, not their home friends. And I grew up with two younger brothers. it was very hard for my father to hold on to my younger brothers because they wanted to go have fun in the streets. And the church used to ensure that on days where the Hinduism was more colorful, more friendly, uh, more attractive to a child, they ensured that we were locked up in the church. So how did they ensure that? The 3 days, the Pongal days, like that is a very colorful, nice festival time because they put rangolis and things like that. We were asked to come to a 3-day residential children's retreat where you enter a camp. I mean, it was fun in its own way, but you were locked in for the 3 days so that your early childhood was not spent seeing those things about Hinduism. The same thing was about Deepavali day. On that day, you will have a special prayer meeting, and you're all supposed to be inside the church by 4 o'clock. So this is how there is a systematic separation of a person from seeing what the mainstream Hinduism looks like. Okay, even when there was a chance to kind of see the nice side of Christianity, the church ensured that they have fixed programs in place to make sure that the children growing up in these churches are not seeing the fine things about Hinduism. And I can go on and on and on about how they kind of kept us in the bubble. But my questioning grew because when I went to college, and then I had a friend who could answer some of these questions for me. And then I got married to my friend's brother. And even then, even though I kind of went against my parents, I went against the church to marry a Tamil Iyer, I don't think I kind of it never, because I had some questions about Christianity, but I never completely ever planned to give up Christianity. That was never on the cards for me. I mean, I'm going to be a Christian, but I'm okay. But I'm not like other Christians who are not okay with Hindus. I will also accommodate a Hindu husband if that's what it means to be. And my parents were against the marriage, not so much because of anything it was not, it had nothing to do with my husband's qualifications or their family or anything like that. My father said, the only reason I'm against this marriage is because you're not a Christian. Otherwise, I have nothing against you. And my father went as far as to say that I can never find a better groom than this, but still I won't accept him because he's not a Christian. And so there was constant, I mean, I really didn't feel the need to give up Christianity even after my marriage, even though I had so many gripes about it. Because one of the things about somebody growing in a Christian home is I have seen parents whose children turned away from Christianity being taunted in the church. So if your child is somehow not coming to church, if your child has taken to something else, I mean, usually if your child is not coming to church, that means your child has become a drunkard, a womanizer, a big fraud, a cheat. These are the only things that the child stops coming to church. The reason a child stops coming. So that means what? As a parent, you did not raise your child well. And there was a lot of pressure on the parents. So in all my years of being part of the church, I have not seen somebody walk out of the church and due to a marriage to a Hindu. Okay, I have not, I mean, even if somebody has done that, that person's life was somehow messy. And they said, wait a second, see, she went and married a Hindu and her life has become a big mess. So this kind of taunting keeps going. So I allowed my family too much, where even though at some point I said, you know what, I want to get away from this Christian association, Christian way of life. or projecting that I'm a Christian. But in the mind, it's always like, oh, my parents are going to be taunted because of this. And they won't be able to handle this, because the moment they say that, oh, my daughter is not a Christian anymore, they're going to taunt them that you did not know how to raise your child well. You did not know how to, you failed God, and these kinds of stuff. And also, whenever you change from a Hindu to Christian, it feels like you are actually doing it as a spiritual quest. Okay, but when you do the other way, it is as though you are now getting into hell. It's not a higher pursuit. You're actually turning away from God, turning away from truth, turning away from the righteous path. So and then also another dimension to it. If my father converted to Christianity from a Hindu family, his Hindu family is supposed to feel proud that his son has found the right path. But if I did the same thing, I'm betraying my family. Okay, so my father would like, oh, she's betrayed us. She has brought us to the streets. Why? Because I'm not a Christian anymore. So there was this very, very asymmetrical things going on. And my parents themselves may not have any problem, but then the larger society they're part of might put pressure on them to isolate me away from the family. So your daughter has become a Hindu, so she cannot be welcome in your house, especially as a preacher's daughter. As a preacher, how can you allow a Hindu girl to come home? I knew all these things. So I said, you know what? Even though I didn't practice any Christianity at home, I didn't raise my children in the Christian path. It's not like I took them to church every day. But at the same time, I also didn't implicitly tell anybody that I was not a Christian anymore. And there was a certain point in a portion in my journey where I said, I'm not a Christian, I'm not a Hindu, I'm an atheist. Okay, they were okay with that, because, but the journey went on where at some point I said, you know what am I doing with my life? It's like, I know that this is a wrong path, and I know that this is a path that breaks up families, and I know that I can never raise my children as Christians. And I keep fighting to keep this identity of a Christian while I have nothing to do with Christianity on a daily basis. And I have to at some point come out and say, no, I embrace Hinduism. And I want to show that I'm a Hindu. And all of my fears that I had, that they would isolate me away from the family, they would disown me, all of this came true. And this happened not long ago, 4 or 5 years ago, when I said openly that I'm not a Christian anymore. And it happened simply because I allowed my children, both my boys, to have the Upanayana samskaram for the boys. Okay, and that was the first time my parents, they had doubts that I'm not following Christianity and all those things. But in their mind, they rationalized everything, that no, my daughter is trying to mingle with that family so that eventually she can win them all for Christ. But once I made this public event, that's when they realized that, yeah, that's it. She's gone to the other side. And of course, whatever I was afraid of happened, like all this for different reasons. They kind of made it like property fight, and this fight, that fight, so on and so forth. It's just kind of made it turned out to be an ugly family fight. But at the core of it is because I've identified myself as a Hindu. They kind of tried to cut off my parents, my brothers, and all of that. And of course, my mother got caught in this mess. Because for her daughter was important. It didn't matter to her whether she was a Christian, Hindu, or whatever. But they told her that she's supposed to have a problem. It just went on for 3-4 years. But fortunately, I kind of was invited back home, so as to say. because both my parents fell ill a few months ago with COVID. And knowing that the good daughter that I always was, uh, they had to call on me to help. And I said, okay, that's fine. You've all done whatever you've done. But I went and took care of them. I stayed with them for a month in Hyderabad. And I mean, and this
So,
gave me,
madam,
eventually,
yeah,
this gave an opportunity to my parents um, to see, because I don't think when I was in Hyderabad for a month, pretty much that was the time where um, it was not any Christian help that they got. That was the time when both of them were sick. That was the time when they needed somebody's help the most. These are people who helped a lot of people in their life. But when they themselves were sick, it was I, who they said was a Hindu, um, and my connections with the Hindu world that pretty much saved them.
very nice, ma'am.
And
Thank you for
Lakshmi
sharing
Nivas is
so
here
much.
with me.
Okay.
And Lakshmi Nivas and his team got my back. And I give my pranams to him for that. Because from the time I landed in Hyderabad airport, he ensured that somebody picked me up. He gave me a driver for all the 30 days that I was there. They watched my back like a brother would watch. And
Wonderful.
they took me to the doctor's office. I mean, they took my parents to the doctor's office. My father had a surgery eventually. But what it gave to my entire family, then my brother came and joined me. But I'm happy, even though it was a big crisis. Okay, it's not that I helped them, but I could tell
Hello.
that Hindus are not bad people. They're here to help.
Hello.
They're like anybody else. Okay, they
Hello.
will go above and beyond the call of duty to help. But it was only in words that I could say. But this 1 month of while I stayed with my parents while taking care of them, I could show them in action that a Hindu is a far better human being than a Christian can ever be. And I thank all of you. Many of you interact with me on Facebook and things like that. And many of you have embraced me as your own friend, as your own sister, and as your own daughter. And I thank you all for this. Now, I want to talk a little bit about, if somebody has become a Christian, what is the problem with that? Okay. Do we really have to do anything about this? I'll address it at two levels. The first level, somebody who has become a Christian, okay, for whatever reason, he has become a Christian because he got a promise of a good education, a good financial support, or whatever it is. So for something better, they've become a Christian. They were sick and they prayed to Jesus, they became well. Or they had some family problem, so they went to Jesus, that problem got solved. That is the claim, right? That's what they're saying. Christianity is for you to become better. For you on this earth, your situation will become better than what it was. That is one of the reasons they have become Christians. But from somebody who has seen it from inside, really, does becoming a Christian make a person's life better? I would say no, because if you heard my journey, you would understand that as a Christian's life is the hardest one if you are the only Christian convert in the family, because you are set against your own family. The moment you declare yourself as a Christian, the church sets you against your own family. So it is a path that is ridden with conflict, with a lot of pain, both to the person who is converted and to the family whose child got converted, or whose brother, whose father got converted. Okay, because I mean, you can't. They were. Recently, my mother said, my grandfather was the one who raised me, even though I had parents. Like, my grandfather was the one who raised me from the time I was small. And when my grandfather died, we got back in the days, it was just a telegram, right? I got a telegram that my grandfather died. The first thing your dad did was he took this telegram and ran to the pastor to tell him that my wife's grandfather died. She wants to go. And the pastor said, no, you can't go. To this day, my mother has tears in her eyes when she talks about that. And then I said, why would she not be allowed to go? The reason she was not allowed to go is because my grandfather was still a Hindu, and the samskaras that are going to be done there are Hindu samskaras. And my mother was not supposed to go there because that is going to give her some kind of memory of what it means to be a Hindu. And I can give you thousands of examples like this, so how is this liberating? If in your heart you're bleeding for your own people, you're experiencing this separation. Okay, so
Madam,
whenever yes.
Madam, we're running out of time. So just try to conclude this.
Okay.
There are so many questions for you. So.
Awesome. Okay. So that is one reason. The second reason is it breaks the societies. As a family, as a unit, if it is broken up, what does it do to the society as a whole? Okay. And these are the two reasons why we have to put our foot down against Christian conversions. And Prakash Rao Garu has taken on this great job, and he has a team of 9 people on the ground doing it. They have about 4,000 people that they converted back to Hinduism. And converting back to Hinduism is not an easy thing because of the social pressure that a Christian goes through. But in any case, I seek each one of your support on behalf of the Global Heritage, Hindu Heritage Foundation to support this endeavor of Prakash Rao Garu and his team in any way possible.